I hope no one is here to learn about embedded memory and C and pointers. Otherwise, that's for a different session if there's enough interest for that. Okay, I'm Bruno. I'm a consultant here. So, how did I get started with memory stuff? Just by learning on Udemy. Let's start. This is a brain. I hope you all have a brain. The persons without a brain can leave the room now. Okay, no one's leaving. What are your expectations for this evening? Nobody? Yeah?
I don't want to write to-do lists anymore.
You don't want to write to-do lists anymore, so that's a good reason to come here. Somebody else? You all came here for the pizza, right? Okay, so one came for the content, the rest for the pizza. This is an easy crowd. Nice. No, the reason why I ask this is whenever you do something, it's very handy if you decide up front what you want to get from it. So learning to remember to-do lists, learning to remember shopping lists, learning to remember anything, that's a good goal. So set your goals for tonight. Don't set them too high, but set them so you can see at the end of the night if your goals have been met. Okay. Resources, so where did I get this from? As I said, I'm not a super expert. However, I do try to learn a lot of new stuff. So I got this from a Udemy course. It's How to Remember Everything by Tom Weber. That sounds nice. Sounds like a fun thing to be able to do. So we're first going to get a baseline test. Everyone is shaking already. How good is my memory? So that's why you got the papers. The baseline test. I'm going to be saying some random words and I'm going to say them twice and you guys have to remember everything and you can't write it down yet.
Then what's the paper for?
The paper is for writing it down after you have remembered it. So first remember it, the words I say, and then maybe an important part, you have to remember them in order. So I'm going to be saying every word twice, giving you some time to remember it. Full sequence once, each word twice, and at the end I'll give you time to write down your responses. Okay, first word, unicorn. Unicorn, electrical outlet, electrical outlet, tricycle, tricycle, truck, truck, hand, hand, beer, beer, hockey stick, hockey stick, spider, spider, baseball, baseball, toes, toes, chopsticks, chopsticks, box of eggs, a box of eggs, a black cat, black cat,
A black cat or
black cat, 3 times, gold, gold, sorry, candles, candles, a wizard, wizard, golf green, golf green, sauna, sauna, and darts board. Darts board.
Does it have to be in the same order?
It has to be in the same order as I told them.
I stopped at your How many words was it?
20.
20.
I did repeat dollar sign, right? No?
What?
Dollar sign?
Did you say dollar sign?
Shit. Sorry.
19.
Okay. My memory is not perfect yet, but 19 out of 20. Okay.
I thought it was a random word.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. When you're in a stressful situation, your memory doesn't always work perfectly.
No, just that.
Okay, if you don't have any new ones by now, you're probably not going to remember it. So why did we take this test? Just to get to know your starting point. I hope you will improve at least at the end of the night. You will have improved. So give your paper to your neighbor. So let's go over the list plus the mistake I made. Well, only counterpoint when it's at the correct position and it's the correct word. Okay? Just count the total of points for your neighbor. So I made a boo-boo with the dollar sign. Won't forget it again because you link stuff with high emotions and you remember that stuff. Okay, all papers have been corrected. Return the papers. Are there any with 19, 20 correct? One. Well, okay. That's when you know techniques already, I assume?
Yeah.
Yes. 17 or more correct? Well, unless you already raised your hand. More than 12? Few. Less than 8? Okay. Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. In between, because I missed a couple of numbers. Yes, okay. Good. So this group is normal, which is fine. That's what I expected. From the words you did remember, what did you see? Do you see a lot at the start and a bunch in the middle? Only the ones at the end? This is because of primacy, the first stuff you know, and recency, the last stuff you heard. So, what happened in your heads? Can someone explain what happened in their head?
In fact, before I wrote down the numbers, and then for each number it was logical, each word, like gold green, it's 18, because it's 18 also gold. Also for box of eggs, it's 12 eggs on the box.
There was a link, yes?
I made a
story. So I imagine a unicorn
Yes.
finding an electrical outlet.
How does electrical outlet?
Okay, stories, we'll get to that later. That's also a memory technique. And you got a pretty high score?
Yeah, I get all the words, but some in the wrong.
In the wrong order. Yeah, okay. What did you do?
I went through a walk in my head,
In
which
your
I know
house.
very well.
Yeah.
And then every remarkable place in that walk, I hook on the word.
Yeah.
And then I make it as explicit as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, he used a memory palace, which is, we're not going to go to a full memory palace tonight, but something a little smaller. But the same technique will be used and explained. Okay. So you saw the link. Another thing with splitting up in chunks. So the concepts of primacy and recency I reviewed. So you see here, this first part, everyone didn't have much troubles remembering it. The last part, okay, we saw the dartboard. That was the last word we heard. Okay, we can write it down. Write down dartboard. At least I got one right. What happens if we split this list up into two chunks? So 1 to 10 and 11 to 20.
Yeah, becomes easier.
Becomes easier.
Because then you
Still the same amount of items. And why does it become easier?
then everything either falls under the first elements or last elements.
Or the last elements. So we split up in chunks and we can remember the first part of this first list, the last parts of this first list, same first part of the second list and the last part of the second list. Now in order to do this, you need to know the amount of items up front, otherwise you don't know how to split it up. But you can split up arbitrarily in 10 parts of 10 or 20 or 15, depends on your system. Yeah?
How are you supposed to split it up in chunks if you get them all at once?
If you get them all at once,
Because the effective recency
Yeah.
is lost.
then it's lost. So the splitting up part is for when you're remembering it on your own and you don't get the input all at once. So if you need to remember this list, it's easier to first memorize this list, take a break of 2 minutes, memorize the second list, take another break. You will know much more than memorizing the 20 at once. Okay, so that's a tip. Okay, not a lot of people will have children yet, but if you have children, don't let them learn for a full hour. The attention span of a child is not a complete hour. So let them learn in chunks of 20 minutes. They will have a lot more beginnings, a lot more endings, and they will retain a lot more information. Learning effectively 1 hour, but split up in chunks of 20 minutes with 5 minutes breaks between them, or 10 minutes. Okay. Splitting up in chunks. So the primacy and recency, we reviewed that. Another technique is association. So what did we do here? Some people remarked on it. They saw the link with the list. If we look at the list, unicorn, what can we associate it with? Uni, 1. We can link it to 1. Electrical outlet. How do we link it to 2? Yeah, it has 2 pins, 2 holes. Electrical outlet, 2. Tricycle, that's an easy one, not going to go over that. A truck, what? 4 wheels, excellent group. A hand, what has 5 things on a hand? Fingers. Beer, 6. A 6-pack of beer, easy to remember. some were more eager than others. Hockey stick with 7.
Then you have to know that's the 7 word.
Yeah, okay. But
if you wrote the
Yeah.
one,
Looks like a
if you wrote them down, then you can link it with 7. And if you got the link at the first ones, then you will search for a link with 7, which you can always create yourself, even if the word is not linked. We'll get to that later in the list. You can create the link yourself. 8, spider, pretty straightforward. 8 legs. Baseball, 9. Okay, you have to know something about baseball in order to make the links. No, 9 innings. Okay, no baseball fans. That shows that this is based on an American course. So 9 innings, but what would you do? 9, imagine a baseball player with a 9 on his back or something like that, and make the link with 9. Toes, 10, pretty straightforward, unless you lost a toe somewhere during your life. Chopsticks, 11, how would you link those two? 2 ones, 2 chopsticks. A box of eggs with 12, already, yeah, een dozijn eieren, yes. A dozen of eggs. 13, a black cat. Unlucky, so black cat. Friday the 13th. 14, we're getting to the more difficult ones now. 14 carats gold. You can choose whatever you want. Just a birthday party with 14 balloons in gold. You can create the link yourself. 15 $sign, my bad, I made a mistake there. How can you make the link there? So that's the 1 and the 5. So if you have a 5 and you draw a line through it, it looks like a $sign. 16 candles. Nobody looked at TMF or MTV. Sweet 16, yes. So you celebrate your birthday, your sweet 16. There's also a song, 16 candles, but nobody knows that. 17, wizard. That's a more difficult one to link. Yes, yes.
Harry Potter.
This is from Harry Potter.
Hogwarts at 17. Yeah.
You become a full-fledged wizard at 17. How would you, if you don't know Harry Potter, how would you remember this? You couldn't. Yes, you could. For example, the 17, you set the one here, and then you double it, and it looks like a wizard's hat. Yeah. So this evening you will need to use your imagination. 18, golf green. The link was already made. There are 18 holes. You could also link it as, these are 2 holes and there's a flag post to put it in, for example. 19, a sauna. Anyone can come up with a link for a sauna? No? That's because there is no link. So this is one of the more difficult ones. What are we going to do when there's no link? Make a link. So what can you imagine with 19 and a sauna?
19 Finnish guys in the sauna.
Are you going to remember 19 Finnish guy in a tiny sauna? Pretty much. Are they naked?
Of course.
Of course they're naked. So 19, what's the temperature in the sauna? 19 degrees. So they're pretty chilly, the naked guys, Finnish guys in the sauna. How old are the Finnish guys in the sauna? At
91.
Doesn't seem like a very good link. So they're all 19-year-old Finnish guys sitting together in a tiny sauna at a temperature of 19 degrees. We made a link of 19 to a sauna. And 20, dartboard.
Highest number.
The highest number, but you have to know basically how a what a dartboard looks like.
With a dartboard anywhere.
Yes. And if you don't know what a dartboard looks like and how the points are divided on the complete dartboard, go more to pubs for a starter.
Just use recency.
Use recency, yeah, good one. But you're not really going to make the link with 20 then. And otherwise, create a link like you did for the Finnish guys in the sauna, which are linked to 19. So splitting up in chunks. Association, we looked for links. We saw the link between all the items. And images are key. So imagine something. Our brain works with images. If we can imagine something and we can imagine it vividly and it's funny, we get an emotional response from the image, it's much easier to remember it. Anyone has an image from their childhood which they remember very vividly and want to share with the group?
I pulled my brother from like a truck, like a small truck, on the floor, and he had to go to the hospital. But
So you remember that? Can you see the moment
yeah,
in front of you? So high emotions probably at that point.
wasn't that happy?
Very visual, easy to remember. You're not going to forget it. So senses are linked. Image is not the only thing. We're going to use images a lot tonight, but senses can also help to remember things. Smell of something, the touch of something that you felt during the event. So looking for links, everyone retains memories and images are linked together. Memories and images. Chaining and linking. What am I going to say about that? Okay, chaining and linking, as you already specified at the start as a technique that you used, you tried to make a story with the unicorn list. So the unicorn put his hooves inside of an electrical outlet or something like that. And then he rode a tricycle and he bumped into a truck. Okay, that's a good technique. We call this chaining and linking because you link one to the next. You make up a story. Are there flaws in this technique? Where could it go wrong?
No clear links.
If there are no clear links, yes?
You might miss a detail.
You might miss a detail. What do you mean by that?
You make up the story, but then you forget like something that's not relatable to the previous word you said, and also not relatable to the next word you said. for example.
Yeah. So if you
Break the chain.
break the chain, if you forget one, it's very difficult to get back in the story because you're missing a key piece which links to the following part. So that's a pitfall of the story technique. Yeah. So we're making up stories. This is a useful technique. Would you care to try it? Yes, no. The answer is always yes, Bruno. Okay. So making up stories. Everyone stand up. We're going to make this an interactive session.
Physical workout.
I'm going to do some stuff here at the front, and you're going to have to repeat what I do. This is fun. Okay, so we're going to make a story, and we're going to add movement because why? Why are we going to add movement, association, and
Emotional pain.
scarred for life? Emotional pain, okay, you can use that one. And senses. So if we're using motion, we're going to do everything. We're going to feel it. We're going to remember it better. So let's start the story. So I was riding my quad. Everyone do it. Riding your quad. And suddenly your, how do you call it? Your steering wheel turns into axis. So you're holding your axis. Axis, like an axe. Okay.
Two axes.
You're holding two axes because, okay. So we're riding our quad and the steering wheel turns into axis. Okay. So we keep on riding and we're riding over a railroad tracks. So what does it do? It shakes railroad track. Suddenly I see a fat bee. A fat bee wearing a t-shirt. It shoots an arrow. So I run into a barn. A barn to hide from the bee. Okay, I see another fat bee. Oh my god. A bee. The bee is wearing a tutu. Can you imagine it? It's wearing a tutu. And it shoots another arrow at me. So I ran into my truck. Ran into my truck and I turn on the AC. Okay. I drive over a long bridge. And then I run into an electrical outlet. I get bitten by an alligator. Okay, we're going to go over the whole story again. Yeah, this is more funny if you know what's going to follow. So, we're riding our trucks. Our quads. We're riding our quads. Suddenly, our steering wheels turn into axes. We ride over some railroad tracks. And suddenly, we see a fat bee. A fat bee. Wearing a t-shirt. What does it do? It shoots an arrow. So what do? We run into a barn or hide into a barn. What do we see there? We see another fat bee. And what does it do? It wears a tutu. What does it do? It shoots an arrow. And what do? We run into our truck. What do we do inside of our truck? We turn on the AC. Okay. What do we do inside of our truck? We ride over a long bridge. Okay. And what do we do once we cross a bridge? We run into an electrical outlet. And what happens in the end? We get bitten by an alligator. Okay? Crazy story, but you all know the story. Next. We'll get to the clue later. You can all sit down. Now, will you remember that story?
Yes, maybe.
Not for the rest of your life. We'll get over.
So fascinating.
So fascinating. But this crazy story, even though it didn't make any sense, you were able to replicate the story. Contained a lot of elements. So, next. How many of you know the solution to the quadratic formula? Solution, yeah, this is basic algebra, no? Okay, do I need to say what the solution to the quadratic formula is? X equals b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a.
Oh,
That's quadratic.
Do we see links yet?
that's the story, like quadratic.
That's the story. So every single one knows the solution to the quadratic formula. Let's see if I can explain it, because I didn't prepare a slide for it. So if you answer that on a math question. So what do we have? We have a quad. We write our quad. You guys won't be able to read this, but this is a quad. What do we do next?
Turns to axis.
The steering wheels turns into axis. X. What do we do next? We ride over the railroad tracks. The railroad tracks are here. It's the equal sign. What do we encounter? A fat bee. So we have a fat bee. What does it wear?
T-shirt.
The first one, it wears a t-shirt. So I should add this. It's a plus. And what does it do?
Shoots an arrow.
It shoots an arrow. It shoots an arrow. What do? We hide in the barn. What's the barn? This is my barn. What do we see inside the barn?
Another giant bee.
Another fat bee. And what does that bee wear? A tutu. So, a tutu. B squared. What does that bee wearing a tutu do? It shoots another arrow. What do? We run into our truck. What do we link to a truck?
4.
A 4. Yes, because of the unicorn list. What do we do inside our truck?
Turn on the AC.
We turn on the AC. What do we do with our truck? We drive over a long bridge. And then we run into a electrical outlet. And what happens at the end of the story? We get bitten by an alligator. So, there you go. Plus minus, the t-shirt is the plus.
Isn't it minus b? Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's minus b, yeah, okay. Sorry.
So you get hit by an arrow, then you see
Yes.
a giant bee, then you shoot.
It shoots an arrow. We get hit by an arrow first.
Before you see the bee.
Yeah, you get hit in your leg by the arrow. That's an important one. The whole point is to get over the concept. Did you get the concept that the story can help?
Imagine finding that link on first try.
Yeah. That would be nice. I think, did anyone see the link? At the start? No, okay. That's because of the missing arrow. Of the missing arrow, yeah. Okay. Nobody saw the link. That's good. That helps my story. But you can create stories like this for everything you need, basically. If it's a weird story, and you repeat the story a couple of times, you can use this to remember formulas. Create your own stories. So as we already said, upsides and downsides. I just showed you a downside. You can forget steps inside of your story. I forgot that you get shot by an arrow in your knee. You took an arrow to the knee. Yeah, should have remembered that. Yeah.
You associated the quad and the truck with the same thing.
With the same thing. Another one.
The quad and
Yeah.
the truck.
Yeah. So the quad and the truck, there can be missing links or wrong links. So another point that can go wrong. The upside is it's easier to remember stuff. The downside is it's also easy to remember wrong stuff or forget stuff inside of your story.